Basketball is an emotional battleground, and few harness that intensity as fiercely as Caitlin Clark. When the game gets physical or the whistles fall silent, Caitlin Clark doesn't hesitate. Her response is instant. It shows in her expression, echoes in her voice, and surges through the way she fights back. These flashes reveal the burden she shoulders and her relentless drive to win. These are Clark's most fiery moments, and each one burns hotter than the last.
Digging it out, Evans fakes the three, takes the two, and knocks it down.
Let's start with a moment that captured just how quickly things can escalate when Caitlin Clark is under pressure. On January 10, 2024, in a high-stakes matchup against the Purdue Boilermakers, Clark stepped onto the court with unmistakable focus. You could see it in her posture, in the sharpness of her movement, and in the way she scanned the floor. Her intent was crystal clear from the opening tip, but intensity like that rarely goes unnoticed. Just seconds into the game, her teammate Kylie Farbach took a blatant shove, an obvious foul the officials chose to overlook. Clark's reaction was immediate. She shouted in frustration, demanding a call. Instead, she was hit with a technical. No warning, no grace, just the cost of wearing her fire on her sleeve.
Met with some contact. Clark is upset she gets teed up.
Yeah.
The latter part of the game.
Yeah, you could.
When that kind of treatment starts early, it sets a tone, and for Caitlin Clark, the pressure doesn't just simmer, it builds. What began against Purdue didn't end there. It followed her into every game that came after. On March 23, 2024, in Iowa's NCAA tournament clash with Holy Cross, the weight showed again. After a sharp steal in the backcourt, Clark charged down the court, eyes set on a quick score. But before she could make her move, a wall of defenders closed in. They swarmed her, using their size and physicality to knock her off her rhythm and off the ball. No whistle, no call. And with no outlet, frustration took over one.
Early, it forces the defense to spread out. It opens it up for 22 to go to work. Clark with the steal. Has it knocked loose. Working on the smaller defender, triple team.
Clark reacted instinctively, bouncing the ball off her own head as frustrated voices from the sideline shouted for a technical. But this wasn't just a sudden outburst. It was the culmination of constant contact, unrelenting pressure, and whistles that never came. For Caitlin Clark, moments like this weren't exceptions, they were becoming the norm. And that pattern didn't stop at the college level. It followed her straight into the pros. On July 17, 2024, in a matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Dallas Wings, the pressure resurfaced. Once again, Clark found herself isolated and swarmed. With just 45 seconds left on the clock, she drove the ball up the floor, her teammates static, her resolve unshaken. But as she met a suffocating triple team with no foul in sight, she tried to manufacture a play from thin air. The possession broke down. And so did her patience.
But right now, they're just thinking about winning this ball game. Clark quickly gets it up court, then got it knocked away. Odyssey cradles it.
In the aftermath, Clark turned toward the sideline, grabbed a water bottle, and hurled it across the court. Months of simmering frustration boiled over in an instant, raw, visible, and impossible to ignore.
Welcome back to Dallas. Caitlin Clark upset with herself.
And just when it seemed the pressure couldn't mount any higher, it did. On February 25, 2024, in a high-stakes showdown between Iowa and Ohio State. Once again, Caitlin Clark found herself in the center of a boiling point, this time clashing with guard J.C. Sheldon. Midway through the game, Clark was blatantly fouled. Sheldon grabbed her left hand in plain view of the officials. Then came a second hit, all in the same sequence. Still, no whistle, no call, just silence.
With 7:36 to play in the fourth, and she hasn't shot the ball well. Scramble. Tied up. Sheldon. Clark.
Moments like these take a toll. Getting hacked on back-to-back plays and hearing nothing from the whistle only adds fuel to the frustration that's been building all season. And it wasn't the last time Clark would clash with someone unafraid to get physical. On June 1, 2024, during a WNBA matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky, the rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese reached a boiling point. Reese, already known for turning up the heat whenever Clark is on the court, delivered a hard shove with her arm and elbow, sending Clark crashing.
Kicking it out, Evans fakes the three, takes the two, and knocks it down. 50-50?
50-50.
The contact may have looked like a routine foul on a rebound, but in real time, it was anything but subtle. The refs let it slide, the crowd roared, and Reese made sure to top it off with a taunt that only turned up the tension. Moments like these have become a defining part of Caitlin Clark's WNBA experience, taking the hits, staying upright, and answering not with words, but with her game. With every shove, she pushes back harder, but it's not just the physicality testing Clark's limits. It's the officiating too. Sometimes, it's the silence from the whistle that cuts deepest. On January 10, 2024, during Iowa's game against Purdue, Clark delivered one of the rarest shots in basketball, a clean half-court buzzer beater. According to a study in the Journal of Sports Sciences, those shots go in barely 1% of the time. It should have been a highlight. Instead, it was waved off, erased without hesitation.
Field goal percentages actually go up.
The referee called a foul on Clark just before she released the ball, wiping away what could have been one of the season's most remarkable highlights. She was already deep into her motion, locked in on the shot, but none of it mattered. The play was erased, and with it, Clark's frustration boiled over once again.
Trying to draw the foul. Referee signaled to count it. Oh my. What's the verdict?
Moments like these only deepened the mounting tension. Clark wasn't just battling defenders, she was fighting for fairness, for recognition. But missed calls weren't just frustrating, they were becoming routine. On May 20th, 2024, during a game between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun, Clark found herself trapped in yet another no-win scenario. First, she was clearly bumped on a drive. Then, as she lost control of the ball, her arm was grabbed. Two unmistakable fouls, and yet, the officials let both plays go without a single whistle.
And she just loses the handle. Alyssa Thomas able to come up with it.
This time, Clark didn't hold back. She spun toward the referee, her fury unmistakable, and voiced her frustration. Lip readers didn't miss a word. There was no sugarcoating it. Clark had reached her breaking point, and it's this kind of relentless treatment that fuels her most intense moments on the court. One of the most explosive came on August 18, 2024, during the Indiana Fever's matchup against the Seattle Storm. After missing a shot, Clark's frustration boiled over. She slammed the backboard padding in anger, and the whistle blew instantly. She was hit with a technical foul for what the refs called disrespect to the game.
Comes off a stacker on the weak side, and she comes off a pin down here, wide open. Victoria Vivian's all of Indiana.
After that foul call on Aaliyah, but this one I think